from the CBS Bay Area studios. This is KPIX 5 News.
Shut it down for Michael Brown! Shut it down!
Breaking news tonight, freeway takeover. Thousands of protesters stormed 580 in Oakland. This after the grand jury in Ferguson ruled the police officer who shot and killed an unarmed black teenager was just doing his job. Less than an hour ago, protesters started this fire on the Grand Avenue off-ramp from 580. The protesters ended up on the off-ramp after CHP pushed them off the freeway.
And this is what it looks like right now. You can see a very large group of protesters, several thousands it looks like, at Frank Ogawa Plaza. Protesters started marching onto 580 at 8 o'clock tonight. At first, they closed the westbound lanes between Park Boulevard and Lakeshore Avenue. Then they blocked the eastbound lanes.
Well, Betty Yu was on the freeway during it all. She has since moved to a relatively safer location in downtown Oakland. We're going to check in with her in just a moment.
But look at these protesters right now, a group of a couple dozen or so lighting another bonfire. Do we know where this is? This is in Frank Ogawa Plaza right now. Earlier we saw a larger group of people getting together near the plaza. This is another smaller group that's starting a small bonfire, it looks like. Let's get to Kristen Ayers, who's live at Frank Ogawa Plaza right now.
The protest still going strong tonight. You can actually see hundreds of protesters still jamming Broadway and 14th. They've shut this street down a number of times this evening and made several attempts of walking on the freeway, some of them successful. This just one of many protests tonight.
No indictment. What you gonna do? No indictment. Into the street! Into the street! Into the street! Into the street!
When the verdict was read, protesters dropped to the ground in downtown Oakland. They called it a die-in. Their bodies sprawled on the street, surrounded by chalk outlines to represent the shooting of Mike Brown. The marching began peacefully enough, though clashes came when protesters attempted to walk onto Interstate 880 and police blocked them. The marching continued, mostly peacefully, although there were flashes of vandalism. A plate glass window shattered at a bank. Spray painters covered their faces and scrawled messages on buildings. A few tried to turn our camera away as we recorded.
Do not touch me!
But the protesters we talked to told us this was not about violence or vandalism. This was about justice.
The total injustice of this country is terrible. There is no justice at the moment in the United States.
Is it enough?
I think everybody needs to come down to 14th and Broadway and stand with Michael Brown against that killer pig who just got off tonight.
It's important to be out here tonight because this isn't just about Mike Brown. This is about everyone who's lost their life to police violence. And so we're going to keep fighting until we see some change.
You can see a lot of anger there at Frank Ogawa Plaza. Kristen talking to some of the people who have been there tonight protesting and looking down on the situation right now. It looks like a small fire there, probably near the freeway. Betty Yu was on the freeway when protesters went up onto Interstate 580 and shut it down. They physically blocked it so no traffic could move around. Betty, I think you're on the phone with us now. Is that right?
Yeah, Ken, I'm on the phone with you. We are outside City Hall right now. We had to move from the 580, but I can tell you things there were really tense. Hundreds of protesters, as you mentioned, physically shutting down the freeway, separated by dozens of officers by only a few feet, many of them shouting justice for Mike Brown. Now, officers throughout the night tried to divert the crowd, tried to corral them. They have since moved through City Hall, and I'm hearing from officers here that they are en route to the Oakland Police Department. They have been marching ever since this grand jury decision came down. Traffic, as you saw, came to a complete standstill tonight. Hundreds of people walked onto the freeway. We did see some officers make a few arrests when people tried to jump over that center divide and shut down the west and eastbound sides of 580. Right now we don't have exact numbers of arrests, but we have seen some acts of vandalism out here. No major injuries, to report. We have seen a lot of unruly protesters, as well as people that are just frustrated, angry, disappointed, and saddened by this decision. And they say it's opened up a lot of wounds in this community. Ken?
Yeah, Betty, I don't know if it was your report earlier, but you said that in at least one case that people were throwing objects at some of the police that were there. And in one case, a bottle got thrown at an officer. Anything like that?
Yes, I did see a bottle thrown at an officer on the freeway after an arrest was made. That was a man who tried to climb over the center divide, and as he did so, a lot of people cheered him on, hoping that more people would cross the freeway and shut it down, and they did for a short amount of time.
All right, Betty, live on the phone for us there. Thank you, Betty. Now, she talked to some of the protesters out on the freeway earlier this evening. Here's what they had to say.
No peace!
Is there any other way to get your point across?
No, they won't listen to us. This is how. Who do we have to fight for us? We have to fight for ourselves. They have everyone backing up. They have the whole system backing them. Who do we have to fight for us? We're fighting for ourselves. So no justice, no peace.
Were you surprised that there was no indictment?
No, the sad part, I wasn't surprised. We know that this has been going on from every case to every case. It's not surprising to us.
What do you think of this shutdown?
Hey, you got to do it. You got to speak up for justice.
Well, here's a few tweets from people in the thick of that protest. Julia Carey Wong shot these two photos of protesters climbing onto the eastbound side of 580. Nate says, quote, smells like another garbage fire still on 580 off-ramp in Oakland. Hashtag Ferguson. This one says, nothing but cheers from people stuck in the traffic jam on 580. Gives me hope on a dark day.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, you can hear that just barely in the background, the report of gunfire. Now to Ferguson, also very dangerous tonight. Gunshots ringing out right down the street from the CNN reporter. Many of the news outlets have had to move their crews to safety, including our own. Andrea is keeping an eye on what's happening in Ferguson right now and the grand jury decision that led to all of this. Andrea?
Well, Ken, hours after the protests began, there are fires burning in Ferguson right now. You can see these live pictures. You can see at least 3 cars on fire right now. That is in a parking lot somewhere in Ferguson. Angry crowds have been out all night long, furious over the lack of indictment.
They determined that no probable cause exists to file any charge against Officer Wilson and returned a no true bill on each of the 5 indictments.
With those words from the St. Louis County prosecutor, Michael Brown's mother was reduced to sobs. Moments after the announcement, crowds took to the street in the Missouri city, some protesting peacefully, others lighting police cruisers and businesses on fire, looting other businesses, while officers lobbed tear gas back. Tonight, President Obama urged calm and to refocus on Brown's family, not the grand jury outrage.
Michael Brown's parents have lost more than anyone. We should be honoring their wishes.
From the 12-person grand jury, only 9 votes were needed to indict Officer Wilson.
And given that it's a secretive process, you have to weigh very heavily the agenda of any prosecutor that is presenting a case to a grand jury.
KPIX 5 legal analyst Paul Henderson says the burden of proof the prosecution needed to present is significantly lower than during a courtroom trial.
The grand jury is looking for probable cause standard, which is different than beyond a reasonable doubt standard, which is what we're used to in criminal proceedings.
Not long after the prosecutor's press conference, the document release in the case, approved by a judge, began, including this photo of the injuries Officer Wilson suffered at the hands of Michael Brown. Now you're taking a look at live pictures out of Ferguson. Again, we are looking at buildings on fire out here. The fire department has said at this point they are going to let those buildings burn. It is simply too dangerous to put their crews out on the street. There are buildings, as we showed you earlier. There are cars on fire. I believe that this is at a car dealership right now somewhere in Ferguson. It has been burning for quite some time. As you can see, some really intense flames coming off of that right now. Now, the Brown family issued this statement tonight. We are profoundly disappointed that the killer of our child will not face consequences for his actions. They went on to renew their calls for calm, urging protesters to channel their energy toward positive change. In the newsroom, Andrea Borba, KPIX 5.
Well, one person tweeted this photo of Michael Brown Sr. after the verdict with the caption, "I'm done." A reporter from our CBS affiliate in St. Louis tweeted this photo of an auto zone erupting into flames within the past hour. Meanwhile, in New York, Police Commissioner William Bratton walked through Times Square. That looks like blood, but it's not. You can kind of see what happened on this Instagram video. Chaos erupted on the street. The person who posted it says a guy next to him pulled out a bucket full of something resembling blood and threw it on Bratton and his entourage. And we will be following developments from Ferguson throughout the night. Stay with KPIX and KPIX.com for the very latest developments. Only on KPIX 5, we found a license plate in San Jose that is so obscene, we can't even show you the whole thing on TV. So how did it get past the DMV?
Well, we've had some rain, but we still need a bit more, a lot more. In fact, tonight we'll show you what this little plane is doing up in the clouds to give Mother Nature a hand.